Okay, we are in the second chapter of the second part of Derech HaShem. This part is known as Hashgacha Saborit, all about providence, the way Hashem guides the world. Right? So somebody pointed out that there are four sections to this book. So the first section that we learned talked about the map of creation, the whole purpose of creation. The entire creation was one section. Now this whole section is 1/4 of this book is strictly about Hashgacha Saborit, the way Hashem guides the world. So clearly this is a big part of the entire Jewish kind of philosophy of the entire Judaism. 1/4 is all about the way Hashem runs the world. Okay? Fine. So we saw the first chapter gave us 3 points upon which the Hashgacha is pretty much based upon. One was that Hashem is a purposeful creator, right? So therefore, that everything must have been created for the purpose for which the purpose of the entire creation. So the entire creation has a purpose, and every part in the creation must have a purpose also. And therefore, if every part was created for the purpose, so Hashem wants to make sure that it maintains. So you're constantly checking in to make sure that everything that was created keeps to the purpose of its creation, right? So that's the first, the first kivun, the first intent of Hashem's Hashgacha is to make sure that all of the parts are serving the intended purpose, correct? The second part told us that everything stems from the transcendental forces. That Hashem created transcendental forces, and through those forces He maintains the world. And then the third part told us that human beings are exceptional. Why are they exceptional? Because besides being acted upon, right, besides being passive participants of the creation, they are also actors, meaning they exert active influence upon creation, and therefore the Hashgacha over human beings is different than Hashgacha of everybody else, because it's a constant, I don't know how to say it, game theory. It's a constant, if you do this, then this will happen. If I do this, this will happen. So there's a constant readjustment process, right? Okay, so that was the first chapter. The second chapter told us like this, that it went back to the purpose of the creation of the human beings. Now we're talking about human beings, right? And what was the reason that the human beings were created? Right? So this is the third part combined with the first part. What was the purpose of the creation of the human being? The purpose of creation of human being is that Hashem wanted to bestow the greatest possible good to a recipient. What is the greatest possible good? Hashem Himself. So He wanted to create a being that will be able to reattach itself to God, right? Where does this reattachment take place? In Olam Haba. How do you get the reattachment? You have to achieve perfection. How do you achieve perfection? Through free choice, by choosing elements of perfection. You become closer and closer to God, and that's how you achieve attachment to God. And that's the purpose of creation, so that the human beings receive this perfection through which they will be able to attain connection to God. Good? Right? Good. So where does this connection take place? Again, in Olam Haba. So everybody has to get to Olam Haba. Okay. So one second. So is everybody going to get to Olam Haba or not? Well, you would say it's free choice. But if it's free choice, but God is a purposeful creator. So if let's say if it's a free choice, then technically it's possible that everybody should choose not to attach themselves to God, and then the entire experiment fails. So then God becomes not a purposeful creator, because He created these beings which will attach themselves to God, but they chose not to. So goodbye, this experiment is over. So God is not a purposeful creator because the purpose was not achieved. So here we have a problem. On one hand, we have a purposeful creator that said, hey, I'm going to create a recipient upon whom I'm going to bestow with the ultimate good. On the other hand, I got to give this recipient a choice. because he has to earn this ultimate good, and he earns this ultimate good through the exercise of his free will. So that means, how do you combine these two things together? Is it free choice or is it guaranteed? Good? Mm-hmm. So that's where we left off. So let's just begin again from that point, which is the paragraph 2 on page 94. Okay, paragraph 2, page 94. So this preparation, so it rides upon two layers, two branches, two aspects. Ha'echad ishi, one individual, v'hasheni klali, and the other one is general. Ha'ishi hu ha'inyan knias ha'odom es shleimus. So the individual one is the ability for individual man, to acquire shleimuto, his perfection b'ma'asov, through his actions. Va'klali, and the general one, hu hiskoinen hamin ha'enoishi, that the entire human species is able to prepare itself to be allowed bikloloi in general la'olam habot, into the world to come. Right. So the way he solves this question, how do you have free will, and at the same time, how do you have this guarantee that HaShem will fulfill the purpose of creation, is by dividing individuals and societies. Right? Let's see. So the explanation of this is like this. Since the human species were created with good inclination and bad inclination, and also with freedom of choice, it's impossible to prevent the possibility of that some of the people, right, some of the parts, some of the people in this species, that some of them will be good and some of them will be not good, or evil. Gilgul, and at the end of this Gilgul, meaning in the end of this ups and downs, the end of this whole process, it should be that the evil ones will be cast aside, and the good ones will be gathered, and they will be made into one entity, that for this one entity, they will merit ha'olam haba, and they will be destined for this future world, b'toiv ha'amiti, in this true good, hamusag boy, that is attained there. Right? So what he's saying is that somebody, or the human species as a whole, through some representatives of the human species as a whole, will attain perfection in the world to come. Certain individuals within the group will be, as he says, yuduchu, will be cast aside. The evil ones will be cast aside. The good ones will be gathered up, and they will achieve the purpose of being the recipients of God's goodness. Right? So it comes out to be, will there be people who will reach Olam Haba? Yes. Is it possible for people not to reach Olam Haba? Impossible. Is it possible for individuals not to reach Olam Haba? Very possible. Each individual has freedom of choice to say yes and to say no. But the entire human species does not have freedom of choice to say yes and to say no. The entire human species will make it to Olam Haba. Not 100% of the human species. Some representatives of the human species. But who will be the ones to make it? We don't know yet. The ones who choose to make it. So there are individuals who will make it. There will be individuals who will not make it. But as a whole, there has to be some people that will make it. Does that make sense?
Yeah, also the language here, it sounds like that the people that will make it is much smaller number than the people that will not make it.
Why? What gives you that idea?
Echad.
Well, klal echad just means that they will be made into one entity. I would say, I think I agree with you, but for a different reason. I would say because it says v'yuk b'tzu hatoivim, that the good ones will be gathered up.
Right, like picked.
Right. So it doesn't sound like, you know, it's the
Majority.
opposite, right? No, the bad ones will be plucked out. It doesn't
Right.
say that. It says that the bad ones will be cast aside, and the good ones will be plucked, you know, picked out. That's what it sounds like. I hear that.
Because, and also, like, if it would be majority, he would have said, like, barov, something like
Right.
that. But here, again, to me,
Right, I think I agree with that. So the other thing, so we left off discussing last week. I think it was last week. We were discussing. So is the judgment, right? Is the entrance into Olam Haba? Is it relative or is it absolute? Meaning, Hashem says, put on tefillin, I put on tefillin. Hashem says, say Shema, I say Shema. Hashem says, keep Shabbos, I keep Shabbos. Right? But happens to be that, I'm a selfish person, I like to have unnecessary pleasures just for the sake of pleasure because I'm a pleasure-seeking person, Okay, I get high every once in a while. What's the big deal? I keep Shabbos, I keep Kashrus, right? Of course, my next-door neighbor, he also keeps Shabbos and he keeps Kashrus and he also learns Torah and he also davens with Kavanah and he's also trying to be holy and holy of each and every day. So both of us should make it into Olam Haba. Why should only, or maybe relative to him, I look pretty bad. So maybe he's going to make it because only the top, maybe Hashem is just going to take the top 30%.
or maybe you want to ask different. Or maybe you want to ask, in Olam Haba, does everyone have the same experience?
Right. Well, we know that we seem to know that Olam Haba not everyone has the same experience, but that doesn't mean necessarily that some people will not be cast aside because relative to Reuven, Shimon looks pretty bad.
No, he just doesn't look as good.
Well,
meaning if he skips Shabbos, he doesn't do bad.
So that's, I'm not sure if we're really disagreeing, but that was our question. Is it relative at all? Is there any relativity at all? That's the question. To what degree? That's another question. How relative it is. So I think I spoke to somebody last week even about it. So somebody pointed out to me a simple thing that we say Noach ish tzaddik hoyo b'doirasov. He was a tzaddik in his generation. Right, and the Medrash says that if he was in the generation of Abraham, he wouldn't be anything. Right, so there is seemingly there is a relative to your generation, meaning a generation is like a community, and so people are judged based on. To what degree I still don't know, but certainly to some degree, the judgment is relative, right? Meaning, if the general mood is everybody gives charity, and this guy happens to be stingy, so that's much worse than a situation where everybody is stingy, and you're also one of those people that are stingy. Certainly, but the guy who gives charity, even though everybody's stingy, is much better than the guy who gives charity where everybody gives charity, right? So there is, so your actions, we all affect each other in a certain sense. We all affect each other. So that's a big deal, I think. Okay, so let's continue. So Gimel. V'ulam, and however, choika bechira, the law of freedom of choice, right? The principle, the choika bechira, is an interesting phrase. Just if you hear, I want you to hear this. I think the word choik. Usually, when we say in davening, we say every morning choik v'lo yavar, which means the law and it's not transgressed. Meaning the word choik usually refers to things that are very. Let me say better. The word choik comes from the word chakika, which means to engrave in like a rock. So chayk means a law that is like very black and white, very stable, very set. Right. Well, even more than that, generally physical laws of nature are called chukim because there's gravity and it's just constantly ever present. So over here, this phraseology is very interesting. Choik habechira, the law of freedom of choice. Because freedom of choice is the opposite, technically, of choik, because freedom means, okay. So this is an interesting, just turn of phrase. Ve'ulam choik habechira, shemachriach ha'efsharut. So the law of freedom of choice forces the possibility, shezacharnu, that we mentioned above, b'chelkei hamina enoishi, liyoisam toivim oiroyim. The freedom of choice forces upon the creation the possibility of good ones and bad ones. So again, he says forces the possibility, efsharut, but I would say he means more than that. I would say he means, like we mentioned last time, if there is a law of not to kill, or the better yet, if there is a law, this is how you punish a murderer. So that kind of implies that there has to be a murderer, because that law has to be applied in some case. So there has to be a murderer.
There's plenty of situations that never happen.
Right. So we mentioned Ben Soder Ramoyer in this week's parsha, right, or Iran Yadachas in previous. So okay, I hear, but not all. So those laws are. I think when we say that those laws never happened, but they were meant to be theoretical, so that's what we're saying. We're saying they were meant to be theoretical. But murderer and punishing the murderer, I don't think that was ever meant to. That's not a type of a law that was meant to be theoretical. That was a clearly practical law.
Murder is 10 Commandments.
Okay.
Much more fundamental.
Right.
Than
Right.
Which is, we don't even know what that means.
Right. Right, that's right. Same idea. Meaning, so it has. So I'm just saying. So if there's, it seems to be saying, if there is a law that says punish a murderer by death, somebody's going to get that punishment. That means somebody's going to kill somebody. Who that somebody? Again, we mentioned. I'm just repeating myself. Like we mentioned this machlokes, the Rambam and the Ramban, right? If the Mitzrayim had to be punished or not, and so it seems to be leaning towards the Rambam's worldview, where there had to be somebody, but who that somebody was not decided. The Mitzrayim chose kind of that position. But the position had to be taken up by somebody, but who that somebody was chosen by the Mitzrayim. So it's like both at the same time. So we have a situation where it's choice, but it's really not choice. It's destiny. Okay. So similarly, the possibility of freedom of choice allows for the possibility of good people and bad people. Also, for the possibility of some good and some bad. Meaning, so it's possible that all people, he's saying it's possible that all people will be bad and all people will be good, or some people will be good and some people will be bad. Hu atzmai machriach efsharut zu or gamkein. So also the freedom of choice allows or forces the possibility b'maasei kol ish mi ish hamin, that within each individual person also shu'ulam efshar sheyu kulam tovim. It's possible that all my actions are going to be good, or kulam roim, or all my actions are going to be bad. Ve'efshar, and it's also possible that some of my actions will be good and some of my actions will be not good, which is the more practical case, right? And this really is what's preventing the kibbutz, the gathering of the perfect beings. So it sounds like this. It sounds that in the Olam Haba, the only people that will be allowed into Olam Haba are perfected individuals. Perfected individuals. Those are the only people that will be allowed into Olam Haba.
Why does it sound like that?
Because he's saying that kibbutz hashlemim, that Olam Haba is a case of kibbutz hashlemim. Before he says v'yukbetzu hatoivim, we gather the good ones. Over here he's calling them kibbutz hashlemim, the gathering of the perfect ones. Right? And he's saying what's preventing the gathering of the perfect ones is the fact that most of us are some good and some bad, mixtures. Just like within society as a whole, some people will be bad and some people will be good, so too within each individual person, some of our actions are good and some of our actions are bad. right? And because of that mixture, because we are all mix of good and bad, so that's preventing the gathering of the perfected ones, because there aren't really perfected ones. And the Olam Haba is really only for perfect beings, because the only way to cling to God is to be perfect.
So maybe that's why we have a Gilgulim.
Well, that's part of it, yes. וזה מה שמעכב קיבוץ השלמים שזכרנו. כי כבר ימוצא באיש אחד, because it's possible to find within one individual עצמו עניונים טובים ועניונים רעים, good aspects and bad aspects. ולהשגיח על קצוסם. Now maybe you'll say, okay, listen, this guy is mostly good, ולא על השאר, and the rest is minor stuff. Let's just disregard it. It's good enough. It's 65% good. Passing rate. Let's move him along into world to come, right? Even if the good actions are the majority, this will not be from the true righteous judgment. That will be also an element of perfection. If God completely kind of closes his eyes on something, that's an element of injustice. And God cannot be unjust. Correct? So he's saying, that is not from the true righteous justice. Kishuras hadin, because the attribute of justice, neisenes, demands, shekol hamasim yugmulu, that all actions be rewarded, or meaning get what they deserve. And whether the great actions are ektanim, even the smallest actions, hein harbe, whether many, hein me'at, or whether little. So there is no such thing that a good or a bad deed that a human being does, or a thought, or a word, everything, again, everything is accounted for. There is nothing that just says, okay, let it slide. Okay, right. So God does not let anything slide, unfortunately. Okay, Al Kain, therefore, Gozer HaChochma HaElyoina, so therefore the great wisdom decreed Lechalek HaGemul, to split the reward, Bein L'Sachar, Bein L'Oinash, between reward and punishment, B'shnei Zmanim u'B'shnei Mekoimos, in 2 times and 2 places. V'hainu, and that is, Shehine, Klal ha'ma'asim yischalek l'roiv u'lemiut. The generality of action. So you look at a person and all of his actions, and you say to yourself, well, what is the majority and what is the minority? Right? So first you got to figure out what's the essence, like what's the overall grade. What's the overall grade? Is the overall good, or is it the overall, meaning mostly good or mostly bad? Which one is? V'yudan haroiv levadoi, and then the majority will be judged separately. B'mokem u'mizman haroi loi, in its place, in its own proper place. V'lemiut levadoi, and the minority will be judged by itself. B'mokem u'mizman haroi loi, in the place and the time that is fit for it.
Why?
Right? Meaning, what he's leading up to is like this. We have this concept in the Torah that if a person is mostly wicked, right, and if he has few good deeds, what's going to happen to that person? So Hashem will give him the reward for the good deeds, because again, Hashem does not let any deed go unnoticed.
Unpaid.
So even unpaid, very good, unpaid. So therefore, even the biggest Rasha, the biggest wicked person in the world, even if he has one good deed, that good deed needs to be paid. Where will that good deed be paid? In Olam Hazeh, in this world. So then he will reach the perfection of evil, so to speak, the completion of evil, and then he will be cast aside. On the other hand, if a person is majority good, he will get the minority of his bad deeds paid up in this world, so that when he comes back into Olam Haba, he will be perfected. Right? Okay, so let's see. Now we know that the true reward is going to be in Olam Haba. as we have mentioned. And the reward, which is hashoyer ha'odam azoichi nitzchi, that the person will remain forever, lihizdabkus bois baruch, to be able to attach himself to Hashem, blessed be He netzach, forever. V'ha'oinish, and the punishment. What's the punishment? Heyoisa nidche me'atoiv. What is the ultimate punishment? What is the ultimate punishment? This is not like Christianity, where the ultimate punishment is some eternal damnation or something like that. What is the ultimate punishment? Heyoisa nidche me'atoiv ha'amiti, to be cast away from the true good, v'oived, and destroyed. Right? So in other words, a true Rasha, pure Rasha, what's his punishment? He doesn't get the reward. He doesn't get to stick around in Olam Haba. That's it, finished. Okay. Okay, perhaps. I'm not sure. Good point. Let's think about that in a second. Amnam hadin, however the din, le'inyan ze lo yeh ela al pi roiv hamasa. This din, this just judgment, will be based upon the majority of deeds. Ach lemasim toivim asher l'rosha. For the good deeds which the wicked person has, ulemaisim haroim asher le'tzadik al tzad hamiyut, and the bad deeds that the tzaddik has, which are the minority, yemotze ha'olam hazeh b'hatzlachoisav v'tzoroisav. They will find it in this world through successes or their sufferings. Meaning the wicked person will have successes, there will be payment for his good deeds, and the tzaddik will have sufferings, tzaros, which are payment for his bad deeds. Shebo yikabel harosha gmul miut aschus. Via the successes, the Rasha will accept the payment for minority of merit. Asher loy b'atzlachoisav, he will get that through his successes. V'atzadik, and the tzaddik oinash avoinoisav will get the punishment for his sins b'yisurin sheboy, through the afflictions that he has. Be'oifen, in such a way sheyushlam hamishpat bakoil, in such a way that the judgment is perfected upon every single individual. V'yishoyer ha'inyan la'olam haba, and then the matter will be left over for olam haba k'moy shiroi l'matzav hasholim ahu, like it is proper for that perfect state. The hainu, which is what sheyishoru tzadikim levadam, that only tzadikim will remain, bli, without taroives roim b'neim, without the mixture of evil amongst them. Behem bli ikuvim be'atzmam, and they will be also without anything that holds them back, lehano hamutedas lehem, for the great pleasure that is destined for them. V'arashoyim yudchu v'yovdu, and the Rashoyim will be cast aside and they will be lost. Bli yishoy lehem taina klal, and they will have no complaints. They will not have any complaints because they got everything. Meaning everybody got paid for what actions that they chose to do. So there is no complaints that there was no justice done. Everything is with justice. But at the end of the day, there has to be black and white. Meaning we live right now in the gray area, and this gray area at the end has to turn to black or white. That's the bottom line. Okay, so now the question is, can a neshama be destroyed? I don't know. I mean, we have a concept called kores, right? So there is a concept called kores, but that's not neshama. That's the separation from, at least according to Nefesh Chaim, the way we learned, kores is the separation of the lower part of the soul and the higher part of the soul.
Cutting off.
So, I don't know. Okay. What are we up to? Okay, let's see. Okay, let's start the next paragraph. I doubt we're going to finish it. Let's, number 4. V'amnam, however, gozar oid chazda yizborach. Hashem's chesed further decreed. So now with chesed, I don't think we ever talked about Hashem's chesed. We talked about Hashem's wisdom decreed, right? Now we're talking about Hashem's chesed decreed. Leharbois hahatzlocha levnei adam, to increase the possibility of success for people. How? Sheimotzei oid min tzeiruf acher, that there should be another vehicle of purification, lemishi yitochen boy hatzeiruf, to somebody who deserves that purification. Dehainu lemishi govar boy haratik boyres godol, somebody upon whom the evil has really gotten a good hold of it. It's strengthened over him in a significant way. However, loy kol kach sheyeh mishpotoi le'avida legamri. However, not so much that his justice demands that he should be completely destroyed. So we have a person who has, upon whom the evil was very strong in him. So it's not like he was mostly righteous, right? It's not clear what he, it's not clear what exactly. Somebody who is probably mostly evil, but not to the degree that he became essentially evil. His essence is still good, but most of his actions were evil, but the essence is still good. There is another vehicle of purification. Can you guess what that is?
Tshuva.
No, tshuva is tshuva. Tshuva is part of your actions becoming a tzaddik. Tshuva is for sure, but that's not what we're talking about.
Yisurim and... But we said that earlier.
We talked about Yisurim. We talked about Yisurim. Yisurim we mentioned already. So what's the other vehicle?
The prayer.
No.
Part of tshuva.
It's part of tshuva, yeah.
Learning.
Okay, let's see. V'hu klal anoshim. It's the general idea of punishment. Shehayoyser roshim behem, that is the greatest of them. Shehu hadin begehinnom, which is the judgment of Gehenna. So there is kind of like the chesed. You're listening. We read it in very bits and pieces, but listen to the way he says it. The chesed of HaKadosh Baruch Hu decreed that there should be another vehicle, because he wants so much for people to be destined to world Olam Haba, that he decreed upon them the purification of Gehenna. So Gehenna, in Ramchal's world, in the world of Judaism, is pure kindness. Pure kindness. Okay? V'akavona boy hu lehanish achoytei kefi chata'ov. And the idea there is to punish the sinner in accordance to his sin, be'oifen, in such a way she'acharei ha'onshoy, that after the punishment, lo yeh oid choiv alov, there will not be any choiv, any obligation, any outstanding balance on him, al ha'maisa harash also, for the evil actions that he did. V'yuchel acharei kain, and then post Gehenna, he will be able lekabel hagmul, to receive the reward ha'amiti, the true, kifi shar ha'masav ha'tovim, in accordance to the good deeds that he did. V'nimtza shal yidei zeh, and will come out that through this, ha'oivdim mamish. Now listen to this. This is what you're going to your point. And it will come out that according to this, ha'oivdim mamish, the ones who will be really destroyed, Yiyu mizer loy kabir, will be just a minor amount, a minute amount. Kihine lo yiyu ela oisom, it will be only those shegover behem hara shiur kol kach godol, that it will be only those that the evil had taken them over to such a degree she efshar she motze lehem mokam b'shum ponim liyos nishorim begmula amitzi ba'ano anitzchis, that there is just simply impossible for them to remain in the world to come. So only the true evil people that have gotten, that the evil became such an essential part of them that there is nothing good that can stay over to the world to come. But everybody else, Hashem is going to find a way to cleanse them from. Right. So there's two words for Gehenna in English. Right. There's hell, and then there is purgatory. Right. So in other words, the Jewish hell is not hell; it's purgatory. Hell is where.
Why? I mean, it doesn't matter really to us. Why do Americans English? Why does it have two different words?
For the same reason. Purgatory comes from purging. So you purge the evil out of you. And hell is just
I'm saying why they have two different meanings to one place.
in their world. So there's also
Machlokes.
different layers of hell. So for some people, probably maybe it's a purgatory, and for some people, it's just eternal damnation. Good. All right. So let's see the next one. So it's what comes out is that the judgment is divided into three parts. It's ikr, meaning its primary part is in the world to come, which is after the revivification of the dead, after the Tchias HaMesim. Ach amasim haru'uyim legomel koidim lachein. What about the actions that deserve to be paid before that? Hine yesh mehem sheyugmelu b'olam hazeh. Some will be repaid in this world. V'yesh mehem sheyugmelu b'olam haneshamos. And others will be repaid in the world of neshamos. So Gehenim, according to Ramchal, seems to be part of this temporary time before Olam Haba, but after death, which is Olam HaNeshamas. So Olam HaNeshamas comes out to be, we learned this new purpose for the Olam HaNeshamas, the world of souls, which is the temporary dwelling for souls. That's where Gehenim is able to exist, which is why after somebody dies, we say Kaddish and all of those things, because this is the time when that neshama is being cleansed in the Olam HaNeshamas. So 1 second. So why does he say there are three? What does he mean that there are three types of that there are three steps to judgment? What does he mean by that? It's 3 stages. What are the 3 stages again?
There's judges.
So 3 stages seems like this. It seems to me that there's this world, Olam HaNeshamas, and Olam Haba. So Olam Haba is the reward. That's like the great bonus.
That's like not here yet, and not there. It doesn't exist yet.
Right. And but Olam Haba, there is no punishment in Olam Haba. There is just reward.
Right.
In Olam HaNeshamas,
Punishment.
that's Gehenim
some punishment and some not.
That's Gehenim punishment. And Olam Hazeh is
But
the majority
also
of...
has neshamas that don't go to Gehinnom. They just wait for the Olam Haba to come.
Correct.
The neshamas
Right.
of tzaddikim.
So they're just waiting. Correct.
Right.
But that's not judgment. They're just waiting for the Olam
Yeah.
Haba judgment.
Right.
Judgment.
No, not by judgment.
When we call
They already
judgment
judged
means
already.
right. Judgment doesn't mean judgment in this context means to get what you deserve.
Okay, so reward.
Right. I think.
But let me ask you a question. If neshama deserves to go through Gehinnom, right? What's the difference between once it goes through Gehinnom and now it's all pure, right?
Right.
What's the difference between that neshama and the neshama of a tzaddik that didn't need to go through Gehinnom and it's a pure neshama?
Mm-hmm.
So what's the difference between those two? Shouldn't be.
That's what you said. That's act of mercy.
Correct. So what I'm saying is, like in Olam Haba, it should be all the same because
Well, there's a big difference. I could answer that on multiple levels. First of all, every person is different. Every person is different. So every person has, the Gemara says that every person has its own madura, has its own kind of level of Olam Haba. That's number one. Number two is, clearly, an act of a person who never sinned, let's say, even mitzvah of a person who never sinned is different than a mitzvah of a person who did sin. That's another way. And the third way, just different. There's one guy spent his whole life learning Torah, right? And then he was also once he was Mechal Shabbos. I don't know whatever happened. So he went through the Gehenna and he got a reward for all of the Torah that he learned. Another guy, I don't know, he spent most of his time not doing much of anything.
Right.
But he didn't do so many sins either because he was just whatchamacallit.
Right.
So in the end he might get less Olam Haba. He got purified, both got purified, but what about the good actions? What good did he do in the world? What did he contribute to the to the whole enterprise? One guy was a great contributor. The guy was just like.
That's true.
So, okay, I think we stop here for today.